WIZOnet, WIZO's professional business network. Usually we see you face to face on our live events. However, because of the coronavirus lockdown, we have decided to take it online, and we are going to have wonderful conversations with interesting individuals about their professional expertise. Today we are having Shlomit Glaser from Glaser Jones Law. She is a family lawyer, and she's going to shed a bit of light on that area. Hello, Shlomit. Thank you for joining us. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you, Snat.
Okay, let's dive in. Shlomit, I wanted to ask you something about what Michael Gove said. He said something about when children are with one parent, they cannot go to another parent because of the lockdown. However, after that, he made a U-turn. Basically, did they give any new guidelines or regulations about visiting rights through lockdown?
Yeah, well, as you know, what the lockdown means is that we're not allowed to get out of the house, but for exceptions. So the exceptions are, for example, to go to necessities, to buy necessities, to go for sport activity. And one of the exceptions that are allowed is to move a child from one household to another. So basically, it's an exception to the rule, but when somebody try and do it, you have to think what is it actually involved in each individual case. So if you have a child that needs to go between your house and your husband's or ex-husband's house, and for example, your ex-husband is with his mother, who is 75, then you might want to think twice before the child goes. So it's going to be very, very difficult for the child not to see the father, but it's better, obviously, if it endangers the grandmother, then you have to think twice. There's also other considerations. How is the child being transferred, in inverted commas? I mean, the fact is, it opens up the risk from the virus, because you don't know what the child has been touching while on the way there. There's all sorts of scenarios that somebody can come up with. So try and minimize that as much as possible. If you do transfer the child from one household to another, see if it can be done for sort of once a month, dividing it between 50-50 or things like that, so the child won't have to go back and forth, like in ordinary times.
Okay. Sounds like a very, very good advice for, minimizing the contamination and the transport. When this thing started, did the courts put anything in place as preparations for a lockdown? What did they do in order to cater for this completely unusual and unprecedented situation we are in?
Well, two things I've got to say about that. No one has been prepared for this. It's kind of fallen on all of us straight up from the sky. But so the court wasn't putting initially any regulation or anything in place. And since the court is one of the essential services that society has, then the beginning was business as usual. And then things deteriorated quite quickly. So there has been the Justice Department was pressurized actually by the judges to close or come up with different arrangements than just saying business as usual and the courts are open. So now it came to a point where the court hearings have all been postponed as much as possible.
Okay.
If there is something which is an emergency that cannot be dealt with online or outside the court, then it will be done in court, but with as little people around as possible.
These are civil matters as opposed to criminal courts.
Yeah.
However, when it comes to matters that are urgent, like I assume when social services need to interfere, this is when the courts will open. During
No, it's not entirely like that, because I think it's important to make clear the arrangements that there are at the moment. Things
okay.
are the call, as you say, that came out of the call is let's do everything online. Everything that we possibly can do, let's do it online.
Okay.
So parties are theoretically, and now I'm saying theoretically, are supposed to receive instructions from the court how to do a Zoom conference call like we're doing now, and therefore to create the hearing. Each hearing to itself, if you're talking about first appointment hearings, then we're talking that the parties are encouraged to agree orders in advance. So, for example, instructions from the court, if it's hearings that only requires instructions from the court, then the parties should try and agree between them and bring their order to the court to approve online. If you're talking about, and here comes the problems with the online system, like practical problems. The idea of more complicated hearings is that those will be also online with barristers, solicitors, or whoever, the judge. Everybody sits at home and joins the conversation. The problem is, it's still possible to do an FDR, for example, which is a hearing that involves, it's a long hearing that it involves anybody who's inside the process will know what I'm talking about. It's supposed to be a hearing for the court to come up with their own, with the wind, let's put it this way, with to tell the parties what can be done and what might be done in their case. So it's quite an important one. So that's the problem. The other problem is that usually courts, when you go to court, you're in a queue quite a lot of the times. So if you're being told to come to court at 10 o'clock in the morning, you might get into the courtroom at 10:30. Okay, you will have to wait because the judge is already dealing with. So how is that? So that's going to be slightly more. It's all, I assume that it's all going to be sorted out with time, and there are going to be lots of hiccups, but it's still, but that's the road that we're taking, the courts are taking at the moment.
I understand. So basically, although like the rest of us, they didn't have a lot of time to prepare, they are trying to get a system in order that you can have your court hearings either remotely or in a different way, not involving a judge, but to get into an agreement so you can bring it to the judge to make it official at a certain point when we are going back into normal life again. I wonder if there are people that were already in talks about separating or divorcing. What are their options now to start proceedings?
It depends what proceedings you're talking about?
I want to
The
file
ops-
for a divorce, for example. I want to, I want to
well,
start the ball rolling right now.
yeah, well, that's possible in the same way that you've done it before.
Okay.
You can bring petition online. It's not a problem. The only thing that nobody knows, because nobody see what's actually going on there,
Yeah.
is what happens, I mean, practically inside the courtroom, what's going on, because I assume that no one goes to court. Okay? In other words, the people who work in the court don't go to court.
Yeah.
I assume. Okay. I haven't been in court myself, so I don't know. I don't know who's there and who isn't there. But so anything like that is going to be more. It's going to be slower. It's going to be clumsy, if I call it like that. So you should expect you can file it, but it's not going to be as straightforward as it is. How fast is your petition going to be processed and sent to the other side with the form of acknowledgement of service? I don't know. I wouldn't. I would have thought that it's not going to be as fast as it is. I mean, usually this sort of process takes 2-3 months. From the time that you brought the petition till the time you got the divorce. You'll be lucky. You'll be very lucky if that's going to be the case now.
Probably. Now, I was wondering, what are your recommendations at the moment for people that might be living together when things are not going that well? Things are about to get to boiling point.
Right. Well, one thing is try and show that you're separated. So since you can't leave the house, try and move to a different room, arrange your routine as much as possible away from your partner or your husband or wife. Estate agents are closed, so it's going to be difficult for people to move, like to rent, for example. But if you find someone, for example, to sublet or something like that, then you should try and do it, because on one hand, it's not good, especially if children are involved. It's not good to have two parents fighting and then under one roof for them.
Yeah.
So you have to think of the corona, but you also have to think sort of physical health, but also on the mental health of everybody in the house.
That is true. That is true. Mental health is a very, I think, big component in this whole situation. And now, as we are finishing our conversation, do you think that the fact so many people were together in the same house for so long will have an impact when we go back to normal? Do you think you and your colleagues will have more people approaching you? Will there be a surge in new divorce cases, or do you think actually people will realize actually we had a good time together?
Well, there is a joke going around that's saying that after this whole thing, there's going to be a queue to the court and a queue in the hospitals for giving birth.
Yeah.
But
either or.
Yes, but putting jokes aside, I would sort of logically. I mean, people get divorced, and it's a part of life, unfortunately. Yeah. There's nothing we can do about it. You got married, you thought you'll live with this person for the rest of your life, and it doesn't last. If you can try and work on that, brilliant. And sometimes I assume that people, out of out of no other choice, will manage to somehow work on it for a short time. Each case to its own. I think that there is going to be the situation is going to be sort of higher than you say than usual. Simply because there are things which people have already decided to do, and they started the process, and they can't continue it. So if, for example, somebody moved out, or had to, or for example, something happened to them, they found themselves out of the house by some way or another. They can happen sometimes, unfortunately. When people, so if something like that happens and they wanted to go to court. So as I said, court is open, but it's not really open. So if the speed of action about it will only happen after all this is going to be over, and then the courts are going to be clogged up, and everybody's going to say, well, sort out my problem, So it's a bit like, say, if you can't get to the doctor, and suddenly there are doctors around and you can get to them, then you're going to run and try and sort out your problem. So everybody's going to be very busy.
Probably. Okay. Let's hope that soon we are all going to go back to normal. I hope you and your family are keeping well and healthy. And I wish to thank you for your time. Thank you very much, Shlomit. And hopefully next time we'll see you in person. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here with us. Goodbye.